Well, the plunging poll numbers tell the tale. The Republican Party needs a new image, and fast. The idea is to rebrand itself. And now Republican leaders are also talking about rebranding the Democrats, the GOP's ambitious plan. Next.
We're to recover from...
Well, it's no secret Republican leaders are talking about rebranding their party's image after 2 devastating election losses in a row. But now there's a new twist. They're also talking about trying to rebrand the Democrats in the minds of the electorate. And here's the new phrase. They want to call them Democrat Socialists. So what's the reaction from the White House and other top political leaders? And is this a good idea? Joining us now for a fair and balanced debate is Republican consultant Tony Sayegh and Democratic pollster Bernard Whitman. Good to see both of you. Thanks very much for coming in. You know, Tony, let me ask you first, because your party's chairman, Michael Steele, does not think that this is such a good idea, although a lot of the party stalwarts would like to see this take place. You agree with Chairman Steele, don't you?
I pretty much do. I have to tell you, I mean, this criticism definitely has the virtue of actually being true, which is pretty rare in politics. But at the same time, I think it detracts from really what the true problem with the Barack Obama administration is, which is they're not just socialists, but their policies are seriously socialist and have long-term implications, negative implications for our country. When you look at health care, you look at how they're socializing the banks and the auto industry. I think the only thing that diffuses the socialist critique is if the Republican Party decides that this is going to be our issue, and we start owning that issue. I mean, in politics, you have to be very careful when your enemy is about to do something to harm themselves to get out of their way. And I think the Republican Party just might as well get out of the way of the Obama socialists and let them do it to themselves.
Bernard, the Republican Party had a lot of success back in the late 80s and 90s, taking Democrats and calling them liberals, a word that I guess their internal polls had showed people didn't really like the term liberal. And so by branding Democrats liberals, they were able to beat a lot of them. Michael Dukakis comes to mind, for example. Might this strategy work if they find out that the term socialist doesn't really sit very well with the American people and they start calling them Democrat socialists? Could this take hold?
The first rule of consumer marketing is you have to brand yourself before you go and try to counter-brand your competitors. And in order to do that, you have to first determine what you stand for, what you believe in, and most importantly, what benefit you provide for the American people. Unfortunately for the Republicans, they have yet to figure that out. And until they move beyond the party of no, I think that we are going to see the Republican Party's appeal shrink. And they are right now really in danger of becoming a permanent minority party in this country as they become further and further to the right, further and further seen as obstructionists, and further away from where the vast majority of the American people are. I mean, Barack Obama has a 67% approval rating, and if the best that they can get is what they rolled out in the fall of last year, you know, my recollection is we had an electoral landslide, and so I don't really think this whole socialist label is going to take.
Tony, I read in my background notes that you actually feel like instead of trying to rebrand the Democrats, that the Republican Party should instead employ the art of jiu-jitsu in order to try to beat the Democrats. Are you proposing some kind of a martial arts face-off between Nancy Pelosi and John Boehner?
Certainly no physical confrontation with the jiu-jitsu analogy. The real theory behind jiu-jitsu is you take your opponent's energy and you use it against them. And one point that Bernard makes, which is correct, is that the Democrats clearly have the political momentum today. So rather than fight them with what really boils down to a little bit of rhetoric by trying to call all Democrats democratic socialists, let's fight them with ideas, because the Republican Party has always been the strongest when we've been the party of ideas. And we just lost a great American and a great conservative like Jack Kemp, who really helped focus our party through most of the 80s on the whole thought that we should be the party of hope, growth, and opportunities. And I do believe we will succeed. But just to address the party of no thing, we're the party of no to these record-setting deficits, to spending more, to taxing more, and making sure that this country just puts the burden on future generations. That's what we're the party of no for. But I do think that we have to turn around and be much more positive. And I think that slowly but surely you'll start seeing the Democrats go down a pretty tricky road. We see it now with Speaker Pelosi, to a point where they don't have the luxury of just attacking Republicans anymore.
Real quick, Bernard, I'll give you the last word. A couple seconds here.
I think that you should take your clue from future leaders of your party like John McCain's daughter, Meghan McCain, and Steve Schmidt, who have argued that you need to move away from these narrow, socially divisive wedge issues where the American people are sort of tired of hearing about it and move on to adopt some sort of proactive, positive plan for the economy. And the more I think the Republicans try to split people up on narrow wedge issues, you run the risk of turning yourselves into a religious party, which in a pluralistic, secular society, I'm afraid just doesn't carry much water.
I will say that if Speaker Pelosi and Leader Boehner would like to engage in some martial arts, we'd like to have them right here on America's news headquarters. We'll carry it live. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in all seriousness. Tony Saig, Bernard Whitman, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.